check in on how the Stars have been doing so far. It's been an interesting debut finals for Jason Tatum. He shot just 3 of 17 in game 1, then had a plus-minus of -36 in game 2. That was the worst game of his career, regular season or playoffs. Then there's Steph Curry. He's been great. He's carried the Warriors, leading all players with 63 points in the series, the most by anyone 34 or older through the first 2 games of finals since Michael Jordan. And he's had to pick up the slack for Klay Thompson, who is shooting just 30% from the floor, including 4 of 19 in game 2. Our Jeff Van Gundy weighed in with these thoughts on Klay.
I can't envision in my mind how they could win this series, let alone another game, if he can't find a level of, doesn't have to be great, but super impactful and good to really good. They got to get more from Thompson.
All right, which is something I can tell you that being in the arena, I'm never clear on just how evident these things are on TV, but you can see how frustrated Klay Thompson is in the arena and body language, and that he's trying so hard. Every shot that he's taking, when they don't fall, you can see that frustration for a guy who's one of the greatest shooters that ever lived. So it's easy to say they need to get him going. Yeah. It's much harder to figure out how. How do they get Klay Thompson going?
Well, let's keep in mind some of these shots that he missed, like that one right there in game 2, were bunnies. He also took 2 or 3 spot three-pointers that were just short. So some of this may be his legs, some of it's fatigue, maybe some of it's guarding Jaylen Brown. But they've got to use him more off ball. You saw, especially in that third quarter of game 2, where they went strictly to high pick and rolls with Steph Curry and Jordan Poole. They didn't run their normal movement sets, and that's generally speaking where Klay Thompson is at his best. You know, when I would struggle as a shooter, here's what I would think. Let me find a way to get a layup. Let me find a way to get to the free throw line. Let me find a way to get a transition 3. If things aren't going my way in the half court, I've got to figure out other ways to score. And so the Warriors are as good as anyone at getting transition 3s. On a Draymond Green bust out, on a Steph Curry bust out. Like, they are so good at creating pace and pressure in transition. And that, to me, is where they can get Klay off a little bit.
How do you think, CJ, how do they get this thing going? And maybe you see the question on the screen there, or it was for a moment, and Jeff brought it up. Can they win this thing if we don't get some vintage Klay?
At first I said they couldn't win. Then I looked at how the regular season went, how impactful Jordan Poole was. And I think they can still win, but Jordan Poole has to give them 20 to 30 points a night, which is going to be difficult against the Celtics defense. But outside of Steph Curry, he's the only one that can manufacture points off the bounce, in pick and roll situations, in isolation situations, and he can create off the bounce by driving lanes and being able to find the weak side. So it will be difficult for them to win if he continues to perform and shoot the way he has been. But that just means they need more Jordan Poole, and I think he may be ready to rise to the occasion.
Well, you know, Stephen A. brought up right before the series began that out of the 3 of them, Steph, Klay, and Poole, they need 2 out of the 3 on a given night. And so if Poole, well, look, if he's going to make shots like that one, then that's a whole other kind of conversation. But is that something that we can depend on, JJ?
No, Stephen A. is spot on this. And we've seen in this playoffs where all 3 guys score, and you really don't have a chance to beat the Warriors on those nights. But if 2 of the 3, you give yourself a chance to be really, really good at the end of the game and have a chance to win. The other guy we need to talk about is Andrew Wiggins. And what is interesting about this series, that they are matching up Time Lord. They're matching up Robert Williams III with him. It's not a like-sized position on the matchup. Andrew Wiggins was really impactful in game 1. He struggled a little bit from the field in game 2, obviously playing great defense on Tatum. But he's another guy that can give them a bounce and a lift offensively.